Welcome to Politics Unusual. I'm Morgan McKay. Mayor Zoran Mamdani this week threatening to hike property taxes by 9.5% to fill the city's budget gap if state lawmakers don't agree to raise taxes on millionaires and corporations. So first up, we're sitting down with City Council Speaker Julie Menin. We're discussing the budget, the mayor's Code Blue response, and more. Next, State Assemblyman Tony Simone is joining us to discuss his bills pertaining to ICE activity and the state budget. And then we're checking in on issues facing New Jersey residents. But first, a quick refresher of how we got here. So about a month ago, Mayor Mamdani said the city is facing a $12 billion budget deficit over 2 years. But his administration later admitted it didn't factor in Wall Street bonuses and other year-end revenues. Now this, along with small savings projections, lowered the deficit to $7 billion. Then on Monday, Governor Hochul announced that she will plan to give the city an extra $1.5 billion, lowering the deficit even further to $5.4 billion. But Mamdani says the state needs to do more. So joining us now to discuss, Council Speaker Julie Menin, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Morgan. It's great to be with you. And I got the memo, matching suits.
I know. I was like, I didn't expect it, but you got the memo. Exactly. So Mayor Mamdani, he said that there's two options right now. There are only two options to fill the city's budget. Raise taxes on millionaires and corporations or raise property taxes. Do you think that there are only two options?
I think there's a third path. Look, the governor has made clear she's not raising taxes, and we have made clear that we are absolutely opposed to a 9.5% property tax increase. That's really off the table for us. So what we really need to focus on is savings. We believe that there are areas in the budget around waste and fraud and abuse where we can make some cuts. No cuts to essential services. So let me be clear. We are in no way proposing any cuts to services. But there are pockets of savings within the budget. Healthcare savings, for example. About 2 years ago, the council passed my bill to create the nation's first healthcare accountability office. And now we know what hospitals are charging, and many hospitals are overcharging the city of New York. So there are definitely savings there. No bid contracts. We could save billions of dollars by eradicating some of the no bid contracts, some of the consulting contracts, debt service or variable rates. We know that there are savings there. So what we're doing over the next couple of weeks, Morgan, is we're really looking at the budget to see where are those areas of savings, and we'll be putting forward our plan in the next couple of weeks.
You mentioned how Governor Kathy Hochul said that she's not going to be raising taxes on millionaires and corporations, but do you think that the state should eventually, if it's not this year?
Look, I think that we obviously need to look at all options, but at the moment, the governor's very clear she's not raising taxes at all. So I think the most productive thing at this point is to really discuss where we do have power. The city council has no power over taxing other than property taxes, which is off the table for us. So what I want us to focus on is really where we can find savings within the budget, and I'm confident that we can.
Now, Mamdani has also argued that the state should be giving more back in revenue to the city. He used an example of fiscal year 2022. New York City contributed $21 billion more in tax revenue to Albany than it received back in state funding. Do you think the state local aid formula should change?
Absolutely. I think that he's 100% right about that. We are aligned on that. I think the state should be giving the city more money, particularly given what the city gives back to the state. So I was in Albany for Tin Cup Day and made that exact case. And there are also certain tax incentives, et cetera, that, should be looked at, perhaps.
Now, Mamdani said yesterday that ordering city agencies to cut spending by more than 3% will impact services. Do you agree with his assessment?
We are not going to cut services at all. So the council is very clear about that. We do believe that we can find the savings without any cuts in services. There are so many pockets of savings, and so we look forward to outlining them in the coming weeks.
Speaking of services, tucked away in the budget, Mamdani's proposing a $29 million cut to the city's three major library systems. It did leave $2 million for libraries open on Sunday, but it's unclear if that funding would make up for the funding lost overall. Do you think that would you want to keep this cut, I guess, in?
No, we're totally opposed to any cuts to libraries. Libraries are one of our most trusted places. I've worked with the library system when I was the census director. They were really one of our key partners in the census. I've worked with them for so many years in the different jobs I've had as commissioner. We don't want to have any cuts to the libraries, and so that is something we're going to push back very hard on.
Something else that's really come up is the NYPD funding. Former Mayor Eric Adams, right before he left office, he shoved in an extra 5,000 officers into the city's budget, forcing Mamdani's hand. Mamdani made it clear before he was elected that he was going to be removing those 5,000 officers. He lowered that cap back to 35,000. Do you agree with him lowering that cap again?
We are concerned about that. That is going to come up in our public safety budget hearing. Our public safety chair, Councilmember Feliz, has already put out a statement on that, really raising concerns about that. We've got the same number of officers basically that we had on 9/11, yet the city has grown substantially. So that is an area of real concern. Subway crime has been rising in the last couple of months. We're very focused on that number and other crime data. So we do want to make sure that the NYPD has the proper resources.
What would be the impact of a 9.5% property tax increase that Mamdani's proposing?
It would be disastrous. It would really hurt small property owners. It would hurt renters. It would hurt small businesses. It would have a disproportionate effect on Black and brown communities all across the city. We made very clear in the last couple of days after he proposed it, it is a non-starter for us. We cannot do that. We cannot be doing this kind of property tax on the back of small property owners and small businesses.
Do you think it would raise rents too for your average New Yorker?
It definitely would, and so I think in the statement that I released at the time is it would actually hurt the affordability crisis. Look, we are really laser-like focused on bringing costs down, building more affordable housing, childcare, lowering skyrocketing healthcare costs. So anything that would have the opposite effect, that's what we really think would happen there, and so that is why we've indicated our really strong opposition to that.
Now, you recently led an oversight hearing on the city's Code Blue operations during the city's frigid cold stretch that led to at least 19 people dying. You said in the hearings that these deaths were not inevitable. Explain what you meant.
Well, we had the Code Blue hearing because we were concerned about the number of deaths. Obviously, the very cold weather presents significant challenges for the city. One of the things we learned from the hearing is, first of all, warming centers. And the mayor was very clear about this. It wasn't the proper communication, and he indicated that that would be improved upon. So that was very positive, and that really came out of the hearing. So we're very happy about that. I'm also pleased that he reversed course on the ways that the city would be interacting with those experiencing homelessness, because again, during cold weather, we believe it is inhumane to leave people in the cold who may be incapacitated and may not know that they need help. So I was happy to see that he has a policy change on that, and that the city will be bringing people off the streets to seek the proper help and treatment that they need. So the Code Blue hearing, I think, was very, very helpful. We're having a hearing coming up on sanitation issues, because I know we've heard from a lot of constituents all across the city about sanitation issues, about garbage pickup, et cetera. Also about accessibility issues with the snow, so that many seniors and those that are disabled had real accessibility issues. So that's the point of our oversight. The oversight hearings are incredibly helpful to be able to get to issues that we're hearing on the ground from New Yorkers.
You mentioned how Mamdani reversed his policy on homeless encampment sweeps. Do you wish that he had never implemented, or at least started to remove homeless encampments from day one?
Look, any death is a tragedy, and these 19 deaths were very tragic for these family members, for loved ones, for friends. What we want to do moving forward is make sure they don't happen again. So his change in policy, I think, is very significant, because it will mean that when we do have these cold weather snaps or other emergencies, that the city is going to be urging people to get them off the street and to get them the help that they need. So I think this is a very positive development, a positive step in the right direction, that there was this change in policy.
Now, as the council's first Jewish speaker, you've already made significant steps to address anti-Semitism. You've launched a bipartisan task force and proposed legislation that would expand Holocaust education citywide and block protests from occurring close to houses of worship and schools. How has that been going? It's
going really well. We're very excited because we're having a hearing on it next week. And so we urge all New Yorkers who care about this issue to please come out. You can testify online. You don't have to come to City Hall to testify. We really want to hear from people. But this is a very important issue, Morgan, because we saw with protests like what happened at Park East Synagogue or what happened in Kew Gardens in Queens, we cannot allow intimidation and harassment. Look, our bills in no way penalize the First Amendment right to peacefully protest. That is sacrosanct. Our bills say nothing about that. What the bills really do is they say you can't intimidate and harass, and they create sort of safe access zones around all houses of worship and schools. So we look forward to a really robust hearing on this topic.
Mamdani said yesterday that the police commissioner expressed maybe some concerns about the blocking of protests around houses of worship and schools, the legality of it. Have you spoken with her about the issue?
Oh, yes. I've had many conversations with the commissioner. They've been very productive. So it's not that she's opposed to the bills. It was that she asked for particular changes. So, for example, one area of the bill said that the bill would require that the safety plans be made public. She had a concern about that. She had a number of different issues and asked for some tweaks in the language. We've made those tweaks, and we look forward to continue that positive conversation.
Now, the council will be releasing its own preliminary budget in a couple weeks. Any surprises that you can share ahead of time?
Well, we're looking at savings, again, because we're not going to cut any kind of essential services, and we want to get the library funding restored. We're very, very focused on that. We're also focused on fair fares because we think that is a very important program. We'd like to see that expanded. Right now, a third of New Yorkers who are eligible for fair fares are actually not utilizing it. So we really need to do more public awareness around that and increase the eligibility requirements for it. So we're excited to really push fair fares and a number of other key priorities that we have.
Well, thank you so much, Speaker, for taking the time to come here and discuss the budget. It's so important. And as you said, a lot of people are concerned about the potential of new taxes. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Coming up next, state lawmakers are up against the clock to finalize the state budget, and a push to track ICE activity is front and center. Next, we're sitting down with Assemblyman Tony Simone to discuss his bills. Welcome back to Politics Unusual. State lawmakers are starting their process of negotiating the state budget, which is technically due in a little more than a month. And regulating ICE activity is one of the several top agenda items that lawmakers will be negotiating. So to speak about this and more, joining us now is State Assemblyman Tony Simone. Thank you so much for being here. So let's start with your probably the big bill that you introduced at the end of last year, and I think you have it again for this year, which is the RADAR Act, which require the state to create an online database to track the deployment of ICE agents and the number of arrests. Explain more.
So I have two big bills to rein in the abuse coming from the White House and ICE. The MELT Act, which would unmask ICE, and the RADAR Act, which would create a database similar to what the governor of New Jersey is proposing, that would track, because right now we're going online on social media to see what's happening when, they're abusing their power. The state would require online database to track to ensure we know who's being detained, who's being kidnapped, who's not receiving due process, and who are really being apprehended because they're criminals. Because clearly we want to stop criminals, but the vast majority of immigrants who've been detained by ICE have not been criminals.
And like you mentioned, you have that other bill, the the MELT Act, which would require ICE agents to unmask themselves. There's been some talk about security concerns. You introduced that bill last year. Do you think it has a better chance this year of getting through?
I do think it has a great chance. We're working with law enforcement, national organizations, talking to law enforcement. We're talking to the governor's office to Make the Road New York, to New York Immigration Coalition. Basically, it's about accountability, transparency, and safety. The state has the power, since Congress has not instituted a law banning masks, to keep our citizens safe. And right now, no one in America wants secret police with masks going after immigrants and even citizens. We saw the tragedies in Minnesota, the most ever people killed under ICE in decades. I think up to 30 have now died. 2 citizens murdered. And I'm not saying law enforcement shouldn't be protected. There's exceptions. But overall, we need to have them identified. It applies to all law enforcement, not just ICE. It would have a badge and name. And masks would be the exception for health reasons, although they couldn't use the excuse for tear gas unless they had to use a gas mask. Clearly, we want to keep officers safe as well. But right now, ICE is abusing their power. They've become Trump's secret police. They should be masked. I mean, come on, this is America in 2026. We shouldn't have masked agents. They can't be held accountable if they're masked.
Now, when we interviewed Governor Kathy Hochul a few weeks ago, she said that the MELT Act, specifically requiring ICE agents to unmask themselves, she wasn't sure about the legality of it, having states kind of require something of federal officers. Have you spoken with your law team, your legal department, about the legality of this?
We have. We've talked to constitutional experts at Columbia. I believe her name is Jessica Bozen, former law enforcement agencies. We've met with the National partnership for law enforcement made up of former law enforcement organizations. And because Congress has the first power to institute laws that regulate federal laws, but they have not passed a law or weighed in. I know Congressmember Goldman has a bill to unmask ICE, but until that passes, and it's unlikely to pass, we have a better chance of passing it here. They passed it in California. Our bill, though, would stand up to constitutional muster because it applies to all law enforcement. We want communities to trust law enforcement. We want them to be able to. This is not telling them not telling them not to enforce immigration law. This just tells them their conduct. We want to ensure people are not frightened. We've had vigilantes copy ICE across the country by masking themselves, vigilantes who are not part of our law enforcement.
Really quickly, I also want to get you on the big news of the week. Mayor Mamdani proposing a 9.5% property tax if state lawmakers, don't pass a millionaire's tax or a increased tax on corporations. Do you agree with the strategy of holding the state legislature hostage like this?
No, but I do think the well-to-do should pay their fair share. I don't think it will drive many out of the city. However, I think property taxes are dead on arrival because they affect middle-income homeowners, many people in my district. And right now, I agree with the mayor about reforming the property tax system. Right now, it's an unfair system, and it's actually hits black and brown communities the most. Our property tax system needs reform, and I support the mayor on that.
You said that you support a millionaire's tax or increased taxes on millionaires. Do you think that this is a year to do it? Are you going to be pushing to do it this year?
I actually am going to be pushing it in conference. I think our tax system is unfair. We need a progressive tax system. We've passed middle-class tax cuts in prior budgets that I was proud to vote for. I think we need to cut taxes further on the middle class. But we should first look at the reserves, and we should look at inefficiencies in government. This is where I'm more middle of the road. We want to make sure government is being efficient. That said, if we want to solve the mental health crisis, public safety, create more supportive housing to get the unhoused off the street, it's going to cost money. It's not free. And I'm a big proponent of universal child care. Many of our families are leaving because they can't afford housing or child care. We have to find the revenue somewhere. So while I do support minimally an increase on the wealthy, I do not support property tax increases.
Well, thank you so much, Assemblyman. I really
appreciate
your time, and I know you're going to be busy up in Albany. Thank you again.
Friday.
Coming up next, the sun is setting on the first work week of massive service changes on New Jersey Transit. So how do commutes go? We're taking Pulse of the People across the Hudson next. The massive New Jersey Transit service disruptions have left the station. New Jersey Transit is reducing trains by about 50% over the next 4 weeks, while Amtrak works to switch rail service from the century-old Portal Bridge to a new higher bridge over the Hackensack River. Trains are only running on a single track between Newark and Secaucus, and those used to Midtown direct service into Penn Station during the week are having to switch at Hoboken and then take either the PATH, ferry, or bus into New York City. So how was week one of the new normal for commuters?
It was good. Yesterday was a little busy. But today was no problem. I had to take the train to here and then get the PATH to New York and then subway to my destination. But it was fine.
Every year seems to be something else. Either delayed overheads with Amtrak. There's always something. Hopefully this makes a difference, though.
The trains, even though they're supposed to leave at 7:12 a.m., don't leave for another 7 minutes. They're late. It's horrible.
Next up, we're going to test your knowledge of the tri-state region, so stay with us. We're flashing back to this week in history, Olympic themed. On February 22nd, 1980, the game referred to as the Miracle on Ice when the U.S. hockey team defeated the Soviets at Lake Placid. The U.S. team would go on to win the gold medal. Finally, tonight, we're testing your knowledge on some local history. Last week, we asked you what recent mayor's birthday falls on Valentine's Day. The answer, Michael Bloomberg. He was born on February 14th, 1942. A few of you got this right. Bloomberg served 3 terms as New York City mayor from 2002 to 2013. He also ran for the Democratic presidential nomination in 2020. Before dropping out, he is now 84 years old. Now to this week's question. What is the oldest continuously operating legitimate theater in New York City? Don't Google the answer, but if you want to take a shot at it, go ahead, scan that code on your screen. That's going to take you to our website, fox5ny.com, where you can type in your answer, then check back here to see if you're right. That does it for this episode of Politics Unusual. If you missed any part of the show or just want to check it out again, we are now on Spotify and any other platform you listen to podcasts on, so be sure to follow us. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Morgan McKay. Have a safe weekend. We'll see you next week.